Happy Monday, everyone. Today is January 25th. Our learning objectives for today are to simplify an expression using the distributive property. Let's have a positive attitude today, and as always, choose kindness. Your agenda. Hopefully, you've already completed Daily Review 3.5. If you have not, do that right now. You should have waited until everyone was done to work on Success Maker. And then for the rest of the day today, we are going to continue to work on 2.5, the distributive property. And then the 2.5 distributive property is your homework in Math Excel. Today is our last day working with the distributive property. So if you have any questions, please make sure you are reaching out to your math teacher or talking to me when I return. The first thing I would like for us to do is to review these two problems. So in a notebook, if you could go ahead and solve questions 1 and 2 here. I want you to solve both of them using the distributive property. Do the best you can. Let's go ahead and go over these two now. I have some of the work already started, but I'll explain. If we have 5 parentheses 2x plus 11, we are going to distribute the 5 to the 2x. If you remember, there is the multiplication right here. So that's 5 times 2x. We have an addition sign here, so that gets brought down to be addition here. Then we distribute the 5 to the 11 to get 5 times 11. We can simplify 5 times 2 to give us 10x, and we can simplify 5 times 11 to be 55. This is your final answer. This is simplified as far as you can go. The 10x does not look like the 55. So we stop here. We cannot combine them. The answer is not 65x. And that is because this is 10x is multiplication. All right, number 2. Here we are using the distributive property and the greatest common factor. So I have 28 and 20. I need to find the greatest GCF. I can divide a 4 out using my ladder method. 28 divided by 4 is 7. 20 divided by 4 is 5. The GCF is in one on the left-hand side, so it's 4. And that's the number that goes on the outside of the parentheses. Then we are left with 7, and we're left with 5. So that's what we add inside the parentheses. We have addition right here. That makes it addition right here. We can always go ahead and double check our work doing it this way. We can distribute the 4 to the 7, distribute the 4 to the 5. 4 times 7 plus 4 times 5. That's 28 plus 20, which is the same as up here. Means we are at the correct answer. All right, hopefully you did okay with that. That is our review, and we're going to go ahead and go into the guided notes now. We are now in the guided notes, lesson 2.5, distributive property. The past couple of days, we have done things that are like this first question here and part 1. So don't worry about those right now. We are going to go ahead and move on to part 2. In part 2, we are going to practice some distributive property defining equivalent expressions. So what I would like for you to do, and it's probably going to work best if you do this in a notebook, is I want you to solve these 6 questions in a notebook, and your answers will be somewhere over here. So try them in your notebook and then match them up with whichever works over here. Do the best that you can. Hopefully you did okay with that. I now have the answers here. But again, you shouldn't be looking at this if you haven't tried them on your own first. Let's start on the top left here. 4 parentheses x plus 5. If I distribute the 4 to the x, that gives me 4x. If I distribute the 4 to the 5, that's 4 times 5, which is 20. So I'm looking for 4x plus 20, which is right here. The next one, I'm distributing the 9 to the 2x and the 9 to the 3y. 9 times 2 gives me 18x. And then 9 times 3 is 27 with a y. So here's number 2, 18x plus 27y. This one, we're going to distribute the 4 to the 5x and distribute the 4 to the y. We should get 4 times 5 to be 20 times our x minus 4 times y, which is 4y. 20x minus 4y. The reason we cannot combine these two, they don't look like each other. One has an x, the other one has a y. All right, this one here, we have 5x plus 5x plus 5x. In this case, there's multiple different things you can do here. They just divided out an x, and then you have plus 5 plus 5 plus 5. You could have divided out a 5x and did 1 plus 1 plus 1 to get the same thing. There was multiple there that you could have answered. Next, we have 27y minus 18. We're looking for the greatest common factor. We have 27 and 18. Use that ladder method. I can divide a 9 out of both of these. I get 3 and 2. So I'm left with over here 9 parentheses 3y. Here's my 3, there's my y. And then minus 2, minus 2. And the last one, 10x plus 25y. The greatest common factor between 10 and 25 is 5. So you divide a 5 out, and 10 divided by 5 is 2 with your x. And 25 divided by 5 is 5, and you have your y here with it. You can check your answer by using the distributive property. 5 times 2 times x is 10x. 5 times 5 times y is 25y. And we have addition and addition. All right, hopefully you did all right with that, and you're getting more confident with the distributive property. Moving on in the guided notes. It says, for the first question here, use the distributive property to write an expression equivalent to 5 parentheses 3x plus 10. Again, it says distributive property, so please go ahead and use that. Again, your hint to distributive property should be drawing arrows. Then we have a challenge problem for you. Use the distributive property to write an expression equivalent to 3 parentheses x squared plus 5x plus 9. See if you can do that one. Check back in when you are done. The first one here, we have 5 is going to be distributed to the 3x to be 5 times 3x. And then there should be a plus. It's kind of funky. Then distribute the 5 to the 10 to get 5 times 10. You can use a dot. Sometimes I like to use parentheses. Mix it up. It means the same thing. 5 times 3 is 15x plus 5 times 10, which is 50. 15x plus 50. Are we done here? What do you think? Yes or no? Can we simplify more? Or are we done? Think hard. What do you think? If you're thinking we are done here, you are correct. Okay? 15x plus 50 is as simplified as we can get. We cannot combine this 15x and 50 to get 65x. That is not the same thing. Move on to the next one. We are going to, instead of like up here in this problem, there was 2 different terms inside the parentheses. This one has 3 terms inside the parentheses. So that means we distribute the 3 to the x squared, to the 5x, and to the 9. So we're going to have 3 times x squared. If you want to put a 1 in front of that x, you can. And then there would be a dot in between the 1 and the x. Plus 3 times 5x plus 3 times 9. I can do 3 times 1 to give me 3. I can't do anything with the x squared, so I'll just keep it. Plus 3 times 5x is going to be 15x. Plus 3 times 9, which is 27. All right, so we should have 3x squared plus 15x plus 27. We are done there. Again, the things look like each other. X squared does not look like x. 15x does not look like 27. X, no x. All right, hopefully you're doing all right. All right, let's move on to part 3 of our guided notes. We have to watch this animation. They're always just so good.
So, what happens if we don't catch enough?
So, what happens if we don't catch enough fish? Won't that change our trip budget?
We'll catch fish.
Oh, got one.
Oh,
I don't know, Dad. We may have to revisit our
I don't
budget.
know, Dad. We may have to revisit our budget numbers.
All right, it says a family makes a budget for a camping trip to Spring Lake. Write 2 equivalent expressions that show the cost for camping and groceries for D days. The budget per day. Park fee is $16 per day. Groceries are $45 per day. See if you can come up with 2 expressions. Let's talk about the 2 expressions that we can create. We know that the park fee is $16 per day. So we can start with $16, and we're staying for D days, so 16 times D would be the total price for just the park fees for D days. And then $45 for D days, we don't know, so that's 45. Now this 16D explains park fees, 45D explains groceries. So if we want to know the total cost, we would add them. So that is one expression. Excuse my bad handwriting with my mouse. So, but it is 16 times D plus 45 times D. The other one that we can have is the total number of days that we're going to be there, which would be D. And then we put something in parentheses. We would put 16, the cost for park fees, plus the cost for groceries, 45. So this is the cost for one day. Inside here, how many days we're there is D. We multiply them. So those are your 2 expressions. Let's go ahead and look at the last part of your guided notes now. It says a camper canoes for 2 hours and hikes for 3 hours each day. The number of hours she hikes and canoes in D days is represented by the expression D parentheses 2 plus 3. Use the distributive property to write an equivalent expression that also shows the number of hours the camper canoes and hikes in D days. So, in other words, simplify this expression using the distributive property. Give it a shot. Here we go. Simplifying D, parentheses 2 plus 3, close parentheses, using the distributive property. redistribute the d to the 2 to get 2 times d. That is a d. And then we have an addition sign, so we add here. And then the d distributed to the 3. So I guess I should erase this. Let's go back and talk about that. I wrote 2 times d. It's the same thing as d times 2 because order does not matter when you multiply. So I can say 3 times d here. These are correct. If you have d times 2 and d times 3, it's all good. That works. The way you'll see it written most of the time, though, because it's the laziest way to write it, is 2d plus 3d without those dots. All right, great job with this lesson. Again, like I said earlier, this is the last day we have for the distributive property, so please make sure you are asking questions, reaching out to your teacher if you need any help. At this time, you may go ahead and get started on the 2-5 homework. Good luck and have a wonderful rest of your day.